All right, folks, back working on the werewolf out here. So thought I'd kind of jump around on different pieces of this. So I thought I'd start working on the wide body kit. And I thought I'd wireframe everything up. I'm still debating if I want to do all steel or do carbon fiber fenders. I kind of waffle back and forth on that. But either way, I need to wireframe this up and figure out what I want it to look like when it's done. And depending on which direction I go, it might tweak a little bit of what I do. So first off, I got some TIG welding rod. So I started out with, I wanted to do the front fender arch here. So I got that all traced off of one of those fenders that's under the shelves there. But I took some TIG wire and I welded it together, and I was having a hell of a time, and then I finally got a little bit smart, and I ended up just using some of these big clamps here and clamping a wire onto both sides of the vise, so you can see where there's some burn marks from welding there. So I just clamped it on both sides. I ended up welding 4 of these TIG welding wires together, and had a straight piece, and then I took that and I bent it and just kind of marked off. I marked off where this weld is here and put a mark on my TIG board here, and just slowly started bending it from the top center to the right of the sheet here, and then to the left of the sheet. And you can kind of push it around a little bit, but I got it pretty dang close to the shape I want it to be. So next thing, so I just kind of hung it on the tire, kind of held it up to the car to see how it would look here. I think it's gonna look pretty sweet. So of course I'm gonna keep it so that the fender is kind of tucked in at the bottom of the car too. And I'm debating how I really want to have it out at the outside edge, if I'm gonna have a little bit of a flare all the way to the bottom. But I'm gonna start building this up. So I have that piece done. Next, I'm going to draw another line on here, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or an inch from this line, and bend another piece of wire to go along with that guy to mimic the outside of a fender lip. I should actually grab, I'll just measure off of this here and kind of see where this rib generally lies, and then copy that onto here. Draw that up, mark it off, and then bend another piece of wire, and then use some of that TIG wire to kind of weld it together and kind of hold it flat and see how I want it to generally look on the car. All right, so I thought I'd flip the camera on real quick. I think the last thing I showed was I bent this inner piece of wire that mimics the arch of the fender, and I just thought I'd show this. So I got 4 pieces of TIG wire welded together again. So I just put a mark right up here at the top to kind of center up this weld, and I just start bending from the center out, and I'm just going to work my way around until I get down to here. When I first bent this wire, I did bend it and curve it out to match the bottom of the fender, but then I decided, well, the fender is going to be arched out more, so it might have more length up to the top, so I just straightened that back out again. I'll probably just put a mark or a notch or something in this wire to kind of show where the bottom of the fender would be originally. Then I'll get this and do the same with this outer wire, and I'll get that on here, and then I'm going to start working on building a structure. So I'll just run a wire between the two every, I don't know, 5-6 inches, something like that. And I'll start working on that and build up my framework. And I'm starting to think now maybe I should do the rear fender first. Barney's bored out of his mind, aren't you, Barney? Got some eyebrows from him. But maybe I'll work on the rear fender first and figure out exactly how I want to do it, since you don't have to worry about any real articulation up and down, but no steering, of course, on the back. So that should make that a little bit simpler. And then I'll move on up to the front. Then, yeah, maybe while I'm working on all this, maybe I'll do a set of front ones like this so that I have it ready and it'll just be mirrored for the other side. And I'll just do a set for front and rear right away. So I pulled out the template for a rear fender and started bending up some wires. I think I did pretty good, following this pretty good. I don't really have any tension on these wires. And I got them following my lines pretty good, I think. So this one was the rear fender, so I used a marker or a Sharpie. So I used a Sharpie and ran around the fender to make this line, so I figured it was offset by, I don't know, close to 1/4 of an inch here from the center of the tip to the edge of the marker, just going on the inside fender lip. So I just made a note here, lip is up 1/4, so I went around, drew a line 1/4 inch away from this the stripe from the fender. Then I did about 7/8 of an inch between the wires, or between the wires. So this will basically be that outside fender lip on the car. So I got that all bent up. Barney is making me walk over and around them. And I started pulling the tape off the fender from our good time that Owen and I had out at Motor City Fox Fest. But I did go to hang this wire on here, and I think, well, it's hard to do with one hand. But basically, if you hold the wire up here so it's flush against that lower part of the 1/4, it almost comes out flat out across where the moldings are, and then should droop. And I'm going to have it so that it's almost down to the tire here is what I'm thinking, to mimic I did before I chopped the fenders off. I just checked it out, and there was almost no gap between the fender and the tire, the fender lip and the tire. So I'm going to kind of go for that. I haven't adjusted the ride height or anything. Maybe it's settled or something just from driving it. But I think I'm going to set that fender pretty close to where the tire is right here, and then build my flare up. So I started working on the wires first for the front tire, or for the front wheel, but I think I'm going to work on the rear one first, just because that wheel only moves up and down. This one has to steer, and just kind of gauge how things go with this one. I thought about bending up all the wires for both sides, but I thought, well, maybe I should start with one side first. I don't think this one should be a big deal, but maybe I'll have to end up doing something different, like extending the fender or something, fender opening for this front wheel. So I figure I don't want to start bending wires and have wasted my time. So that's where we're going next. I'm going to get that tape off that fender here yet, hopefully tonight. Might have to take a heat gun to it or something. Then over the course of the next week here, I'm going to start, well, I think the next step I'm going to do for these guys is, since it's got the wires for the edge of the lip, I'm going to start cutting some wires to kind of weld between every few inches. So I'll probably cut some wires about 3/4 of an inch of length and then get them welded in here. All right, Shop Dog and I are back in the garage again, but I thought I'd show this really quick. I ordered some tools for doing body work on the car. So I ended up ordering from Eastwood a shrinker stretcher, deep draw shrinker stretcher. I'll get this stuff all out of the box. But looking at that, I think it does come with like a hand lever, so you can like pull the jaw shut with the hand lever, and then I just thought it'd be so much handier to be able to use both hands to control the steel through those jaws. So I ordered the stand that goes with it, and I think it's got a foot pedal that goes with it so that you can operate the jaws with a foot and then have both hands free for running the sheet metal through there. So I'll work on getting that unboxed and set up. But I have to give some special thanks to Chris at Infamous Project. He's doing some video footage with the Martin brothers, and they're doing the fender flares, all steel fender flares, like a wide body kit on a 79 pace car. So kind of using that as some inspiration. Hopefully I can do something at least halfway as close to what they're doing and still make it look good like those pros do. So we'll see what I can do. I did come out here last night and started pulling some of the Gorilla Tape off. I had Gorilla Tape run all the way up past where the quarter panel is here and had a layer of it on there to cover up these slits in here. And then I had some that ran from this inner fender up to the quarter panel just to kind of get it sealed up for when we were out in Michigan this summer at Motor City. But I started yanking on that and it came off, I'm not going to say easy, but a lot easier than I expected it to. I thought that this would be just completely full of black goop like what this is here and what this is here. But a lot of it came off, so do have a little bit of work left to do. And now Shop Dog decided he needs attention. Huh, Barney? Ooh. Oh, well. But got a little bit of work to do with that and get that kind of cleaned up. And then we're gonna, like I had mentioned in a previous recording that I did, I think I'm gonna work on this rear fender first, getting stuff set up for that, and then move up to that front fender. All right, guys, I need to get out here and record more. It's halfway through the work week. I didn't get a video out last week, so hoping to get out here a little bit in the next couple nights. But I've been working, finally getting around. I was doing some work in the house and just, I don't know, just tired from work and just wasn't getting out in the garage. But I got my wires cut here that I showed before, and this was a pain in the butt. I basically marked off TIG filler rod at about 3/4 of an inch and just held it in the vise over there, and then just held on to the loose end with the pliers and cut it with a cutoff wheel. And then I had a couple that were a little bit long, and when I double checked them, so I just took them to the grinder. So next plan of attack is getting all that stuff welded up. So I got my little 3/4 inch pieces in a little dish down there. And I broke out these little clamps, hold downs, whatever you want to call them. Started out with just one, then I figured I'd grab a second one just to hold the short pieces in place. So I'm just going around. So this is the inner wheel arch, the closest to the wheel there. So I thought I'd just weld the little 3/4 inch pieces on and just get a row of them started around there. Maybe get, I don't know, maybe come down to about here on the wheel arch and come around both sides here and just weld these little tabs on, see how many I really need, and just kind of go from there. So I did end up breaking out while I was welding here. Well, then you go to clamp down next to where there's a weld and it wants to pop the wire up, so I broke out a third clamp to hold it down. So I'm just going along, and then I just hit a little tack on each side of the wire and move on to the next one. So that's what I'm working on now, and hopefully I'll come back in a little while and kind of show you what I've gotten together. One more update before I call it quits for the night. So I got tabs welded on. I might weld on, looks like it goes kind of far down that fender back there, but maybe I'll have to weld another one up here. But things stayed pretty true to what my line is right here. But you can tell it did kind of warp some of the wire in and up and all sorts of things. But luckily it's just wire. So I'll work on getting things, I'll probably weld one more tab on here, but I'll probably save that for tomorrow night. Maybe I'll weld one on front and back. Maybe I'll have 2 more on this side, 1 more on the back, and then I'll start working on welding on this outer one, so the upper one that's further away from the tire, and we'll go from there.